Hey, what is up internet? Welcome back to the channel. I hope आप सब ठीक हो. So I have the OnePlus Nord with me here and just for the weekend because मैंने ये अपने भाई के लिए खरीदा है. So I thought I'll just take this phone around and click a bunch of pictures. So come join me as I give you a detailed camera review of the OnePlus Nord. So let's get started. Okay, let's talk about specs first. So OnePlus Nord actually comes with 6 cameras, which I think OnePlus just put it to sound it cool. But we have 4 at the back and 2 at the front. So at the back, we have a 48 megapixel primary sensor with f1.8 aperture. Then we have an 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor with 119 degrees field of view. Now there is also a 5 megapixel depth sensor and a 2 megapixel macro sensor at the back, but I'll talk more about that in the later part of the video. At the front, we have a 32 megapixels primary sensor with f2.5 aperture and an 8 megapixel ultra wide sensor as well with 105 degree field of view. Now before we jump onto the pictures, let's have a look at the camera interface. Now OnePlus Nord, just like other OnePlus phones, has a clean and simple camera interface which I personally like. You get a bunch of options like time-lapse, slow motion, nightscape mode, and also a dedicated pro mode that also gives you an option to shoot raw pictures if you are into that. Now I only use the auto mode for most of my camera testing in this video because I believe most of the people out there watching this video will be using the camera app in the auto mode and not in pro mode. Now starting with the primary camera, OnePlus Nord by default gives you an option to shoot in 12 megapixel as well as 48 megapixels from the primary camera, and it also says that if you shoot at 12 megapixels it will offer you better dynamic range, but overall it does a good job in daylight or if there is an ample amount of light in the room. The photos are usually sharp, there is a good amount of detail even if you zoom in. Now colors were a little oversaturated for my liking, but that's how most mid-range phones these days try to play with the sensor. The dynamic range was surprisingly pretty good, and even shooting at 48 megapixels didn't have a big impact on dynamic range honestly. Now if we increase our field of view, that is if we switch to the ultra wide 8 megapixel at the back, I like the colors more on this one, but because it has less megapixels, you do lose out on some details and the pictures are definitely on the softer side when compared to the primary camera. But the wide angle photos are generally not meant to be zoomed in, so I would pass this. Now if I talk about portrait shot, I was happy with the pictures overall. The bokeh effect was way more natural than other phones in this price range, and the edge detection was also not that bad when we took photos of humans especially. Now it struggles a little bit with objects even though it has a dedicated 5 megapixel depth sensor. I'm not sure why OnePlus included that, and also I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on that 2 megapixel macro camera because it's straight away garbage guys and you shouldn't basically use it. Still, here are some shots taken from that macro lens compared to the cropped pictures I took from the primary camera, and you can judge who is the winner here. Now shifting to the front camera, I was again surprised by the photos taken from the selfie cameras, and I love the fact that OnePlus also included a second ultra wide 8 megapixel camera, which is perfect for groupies or if you want to take a lot of photos or a lot of selfies in front of a landscape or other huge background. Now one thing you would want to keep enabled is the Ultra HDR in the settings because that significantly toned down the overexposed background which otherwise was pretty prominent in the photos taken from both the front cameras. Now things change a little bit when we move to darker environments, and I think that has been with OnePlus's camera in the past as well. The primary camera again does a respectable job, but the wide angle camera somewhat starts to struggle in my opinion. Now the nightscape does earn some points and it will definitely improve your pictures most of the time, but overall I was not very impressed with OnePlus Nord's low light camera performance. I even tried Gcam's night sight to see if there was any significant improvement, but honestly 9 out of 10 times I would pick the photos from the OnePlus's own nightscape photos over Gcam's night sight. Now unfortunately things are pretty much same for the front camera as well. I noticed that pictures from the front camera when in low light situations were a little too soft for my liking, and things got even worse when we switched to the wide angle front camera. Also the camera always took a little extra time to click those selfies when you're in low light situations. I'm not sure if this is very similar for all OnePlus phones, because even my 2-year-old OnePlus 60 doesn't do that. Now, two things about the OnePlus Nord's video recording capabilities. First, the rear camera, which is the primary camera, misses out on 4K 60 FPS, which I think might be a feature that a lot of you would want on your smartphone. Second, if you want to shoot from the wide angle camera, both from the front as well as the back wide angle camera, you will have to settle for 30 fps, because both of them cannot record at 60 fps. Now, I would personally give up the 60 fps just because of the extra room you get from the wide angle camera, both from the front as well as back wide angle camera. But let me know what do you think in the comment section below. So the OnePlus Nord also comes with the super stable mode, although it limits the FPS to 30 FPS only for both 4K and 1080p. And honestly, वो difference लाता है stabilization में, but I still prefer the 60 FPS. So that's that. But you would see, as soon as we move in some challenging lighting environments, the OnePlus Nord starts to struggle when it comes to both photos and videos, and the story continues with the rear camera as well. Now, videos और photos दोनों में noise बहुत ज़्यादा है, and also I was not very impressed with the color reproduction as well. So yes guys, this was it for my camera review of the OnePlus Nord. Comment down below what do you think about the OnePlus Nord's camera. I think OnePlus Nord does a respectable job, especially when we talk about daylight situations, and the wide angle selfie camera is a big plus in my opinion. But yeah, I think if you're just buying the OnePlus Nord for the camera, I would rather ask you to look away to something like Pixel 4a. I'm not sure how it will be priced in India because it is yet to be launched. I think it will be here sometime in October. But yes, let me know in the comment section below if you're buying the OnePlus Nord only for the camera, and let me know how has been your experience if you already have one in your bag. Also, it would be great if you like this video and subscribe to TQnet, and because I have my full review coming up, you would want to hit that bell icon as well so that you don't miss out on that. Till then, keep asking and I will see you in the next one.